Hello there, this is my edit, and this is the first cut, otherwise known as a rough cut of my edit. These are all the available shots for my short film and all available sound files as well. So here we have the sound files in green at the bottom, and here you have on the timeline we have all available shots of each scene. What I did in this timeline was take all the shots that I preferred and put them on one timeline, and therefore having a good vision of what it may look like and having some sort of structure to it. I just took all the best shots, put them on a timeline and see what it would look like, having all the best audio and see if there's any problems with any of the shots, and there wasn't. This would be the first assembly, otherwise known as the rough cut. And this is my first cut. So what I did was duplicate the rough cut into a second cut, which is called a first cut down here to the bottom left. So I have a rough cut, and I'm onto the second sequence, which is called the first cut. And in this cut, it's slightly more refined and structured. Everything on the timeline is put in sequence and in order as to make the film more watchable and have a clear understanding of what the narrative is. This cut is mainly about narrative and selecting the right audio files for the right footage. So you can see down here we have the green files, which are the audio files, and these go hand in hand with the video files. So we might use the green files instead of these blue ones, as the green files may be more clear, although maybe not. So we have to discover that, but all the files are put in sequence, and we'll come across any structural problems in terms of narrative, and then we fix it here. We discover what they are and we try to do our best to fix them. But other than that, we put the story together, we structure it, and we see what we can make of it and how to make the story as good as it can be in terms of sequence, in terms of story, and have a good idea of any outlying problems. So for example, here we have a montage sequence, starts here and right to the very end, and we may refine that, we probably will. So that's a problem down the line that we're going to have to confront in terms of story, in terms of trying to make it the best we can. And other than that, this is the first cut of the story of the short film, and we're seeing what works and what doesn't work. But in terms of story, we just structure it and see what way the story flows and any major changes we would make them now. But other than that, this is the first cut, a more refined assembly version, refining each scene and seeing about timing and pacing. And it seems to work at this stage, so we'll just duplicate the footage. So in order to duplicate the sequence, once we're finished with it, we click on the file sequence and we go up to duplicate. Okay, one of the problems that we discovered on the first cut was the montage sequence, and I thought at the time that it would be better to take the montage sequence, which lasts from here all the way up to here, copy and paste it onto a separate timeline in order to have the best use of the edit. So I copied and pasted onto a new sequence, and here we have our first draft of the montage, and we're seeing what way we want to structure it and how we want to intertwine all the different shots and different sequences, because in this montage there are at least 5 or 6 different scenes. We want to put them all together and mingle them and match them in such a way that it tells some type of a story even within the montage, which may only last 1.5 minutes. So we have 5 or 6 different scenes within the montage, and we want to mix and match it in such a way to make it compelling and interesting to watch and have a little story of its own. Then we assemble this one and we duplicate the sequence again. So we go over to our left, we hit duplicate, and then we come up with our second montage. And what we do is we look for some music to put with the synchronize with the montage. On our first montage we do quite loose cutting of it, and then on the second one we select our music and we try and match the rhythm and the pacing of the montage to the music. So this is our music down here. It's a instrumental version of a song that I found from a film with a similar tone and feel to our short film, and then we sort of and then we cut the montage to the rhythm and the pacing of the and the feeling of the music, and then we just tighten it up until we're very happy with it. So the second montage, to file to the left, is a tightening up and refinement with alongside the music that we've selected, and that would be our montage. Okay folks, this is our fine cut sequence. So I've duplicated the first cut sequence and I have brought in the refined montage into our third cut sequence, and in our fine cut this would be our last opportunity to fix or change around the scene order or the shot order in our sequences. A fine cut is otherwise known as picture lock. So up until this point we can make all our decisions regarding the story and the shot order, but the fine cut is essentially where we refine everything. We tighten up shots, we quicken up the pace, or we slow it down. We round off all the edges, and we make sure our audio files and our pixel files and even some of our transitions are inserted, and just making sure that there are no simple errors or mistakes. The story has been structured in our first cut, and our fine cut it's to do with refinement. So our story works, or it should work, and it does work in my case. And this is our last opportunity to chop and change any shots or take some out. So this sequence is all about refinement, and after this we aim towards what's called picture lock. So once we finish this, picture lock is obtained and the shot order or the sequences aren't changed, and essentially it goes on to final cut, which is color grade and export after that. Okay folks, this is our final cut. So now that the picture lock has been obtained in our fine cut, our final cut occurs after the picture lock has been obtained, and in this we color grade all of the shots that need color grading, and we can insert transitions and special effects. So in this version the story has set, we know where our sequence is, and now it's all about polishing the sequences and the film. So for example, in the montage sequence, which begins about here, I added in some stock footage, some grunge film stock. So down to our left here, I downloaded a few samples from the internet and laid it on top of the existing footage, and I softened it. So you'll see here it's been, if you look at our effects, it's in the soft light, the blend mode, it's moved in the soft light, and we also inserted, I also inserted transitions and dips, what are called dips, so it dips from one to the other, much in the same vein as an old silent short film. Our story is set in the olden times, so I took inspiration from silent movies and inserted stock footage and little dip transitions to make it resemble old-timey footage. We did this throughout the montage in order to resemble that time period and to sort of make it a bit more coherent. There's no point in inserting a color grade or special effects if it doesn't really make any sense. So you'll see here that the color grade has been laid on top, or the film stock footage has been laid on top of the existing montage, and it gives a certain feel to it and places it in a certain context, and that's what we want to achieve with the special effect. For other shots that needed color grading, if you look here, you will see for other shots you will see the skin color is a bit more peachy, and if you look on the temperature has been added to the shot. The shot was very cold beforehand, so I increased the temperature and the shadows and downplayed the exposure a little bit to add a bit of more vibrancy and health to the shot here and here. and here again. But not all shots needed color grading or corrected. If you take this shot, for example, didn't need anything at all. If you look at all the zeros, slightly bit of temperature there, but opacity, everything is fine. And we looked at every single shot that there was, and seen what we needed to do. All the shots that are purple have been effects have been added slightly, and all the shots that are grey boxed haven't been touched. So if we take this for example, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that shot, but what I did do was increase the temperature. Some of the shots were very cold looking, even though it's grey stone. If you increase the temperature, you give a better warmth to it. And if we move up the timeline here, you'll see this shot here. It's very significant. In the background we have red houses and a red dress and a red top, and before it was quite cold, so I increased the temperature, the contrast and the highlights, and give it a bit more health. So if we reset it, if you watch like this, it was quite grey. If we put it back the way it was, it's a bit more healthier. So in this sequence, our Final Cut is essentially our color grade. We look at everything, the transitions, the special effects, and the opening credits, and we essentially polish everything off and make sure it's workable and watchable. Okay, now that the Final Cut has been finished, we want to export our footage. So we do an in and out. We go above the timeline and hit O, and that brings it highlights the whole timeline, all our footage, and we want to go up to File, Export Media, and the output will be uncompressed, but it'll be Premiere Pro files under our Meeting Street Edit, and we select the aspect ratio and the settings.